Welcome back to another episode of Silent Pals Go to the Movies. I'm here with my friend Touly. Say hi, Touly.
Hey guys.
So today we're going to be reviewing the new Halloween movie. A fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. Laurie Strode comes to her final confrontation with Michael Myers, the masked figure who has haunted her since she narrowly escaped his killing spree on Halloween 40 years ago. So Touly, tell us what you thought about this movie.
To be quite frank, walked out of the theater feeling very unsatisfied. There were too many components throughout the film that that just got me disengaged. Just brought me out of just trying to enjoy the movie, thinking why they either approach what they did the way they did, or just how they portrayed a lot of the characters in this film. I come across people saying that the characters in this film, particularly when it comes to Jamie Lee Curtis's character, who has gone mad in wanting to confront Michael Myers for the final time and dispose of him, because it has been on her mind for the past so many years, and how that has, in her daughter's eye, ruined her life. She didn't want the granddaughter to be influenced by that too, so it has caused this relationship between the family to not be very stable. I just didn't feel it to be believable, in the sense that it would lead to a sense of closure that I would deem appropriate for the film itself. I can understand that Laurie, after what she went through, she could have gone paranoid. They could have gone the route where she could not. But again, the idea behind this movie is she wanted to end this chapter. So, they made her pretty much overreact to this and prepare for the moment that someday she'll be confronting Michael Myers again. I was okay with that until she, and again, this is going to spoiler area now, where I think at one point she told one of the sheriff that she wanted Michael to actually escape so that this opportunity, would be allowed for her to confront him. And to me, that took away a lot of respect and integrity I had for the character, because it's like you telling me you want Michael Myers to escape and go on another killing spree just so that you have this opportunity to kill him. And not only that, but you put your family at risk, and then you just use that as a reason to justify what you did for to your daughter, pretty much scarring her because she didn't want that life that you raised her into. But because you did, there was this disconnect now between the family. And even then, towards the end, I didn't believe that the daughter, her character was believable. She made such a sudden mentality shift towards the end, where she confronted Michael Myers herself while she was in that bunker-like area. It was too drastic. She was not acting like the type of person who was prepared after all the training she got from Laurie, and for her to make that sudden shift, that didn't make sense. Some people might think this is being picky, but I don't think it's being picky. This is where the believability comes in. When she was trapped in that bunker and she didn't for 1 second think about grabbing the gun until Michael Myers broke the counter to give him the chance to come down to her. It just didn't make sense with the character. After all the training, you wouldn't even reach for a gun. You were so scared. And the granddaughter, to me, served no purpose. I wish this movie was more about Laurie and the daughter and not the granddaughter. Because I feel like the relationship between those two needed to get repaired, and they needed to focus more on that versus using the granddaughter as a way to, I believe, maybe connect more with the audience, but maybe the younger folks or today's generation. But I think if that was the decision that they wanted to go in, because the focus to be on the granddaughter versus being more so on the mother, or even Laurie or Jamie Lee Curtis's character herself, the movie suffered a great deal. I thought the potential of them making a Halloween movie where I felt more invested in Jamie Lee Curtis's character, or even the mother, it was lost. And because of that, then I felt almost throughout the entire movie, I didn't know who to root for. And so it came to a point where I started rooting for Michael, actually, because so many people in this film were getting killed left and right. I wouldn't say for the stupidest reasons, but it seemed like they lacked the intelligence to, I don't know, to just put themselves in safer positions. Like, even the cops in this film, like, it seemed like they had no training, like, they were easily killable as much as these townsfolk, during Halloween. And again, going back to the theme of believability, if you were cops and you had training, you should not be dying to Michael Myers that easily. Like, there should be more of a struggle at the very least. Yeah, the only big highlight I would say I had for this film was, and I think most people would agree with me with this, is the kid who was getting babysit. His reaction to the babysitter was, very genuine. It actually, created a conversation that made me start to like the babysitter as well, despite the actions that she was going to commit to later that night after, the kid was to go to bed. If you were to just, disregard that, it actually gave me that sense of a dialogue that I wanted from like characters in this film, but characters between Laurie and the mother or the granddaughter or whoever. This was the only time where I felt like the dialogue between two characters felt real. And because of this, when the babysitter died, like, that was the only person who I really cared for who actually died, because of that connection that I had in that brief moment. And it didn't help that in the trailer they already showed her confronting Michael Myers when she opened the closet. So in a sense, that suspense got taken away as well. Like, I already knew that she was most likely gonna die. Yeah, the only sense of pleasure that I had from this film was actually that interaction between the kid and the babysitter. Everything else, like I said, I could always just go back to the idea of believability. And when the movie ended, I went to go watch this with friends, and immediately I turned to my friend. He was like, "Man, this movie was bad." And I was like, "Yep, I agree with you." So yeah, I mean, I could speak more to how I feel about this movie, but in the end, I didn't really like this film.
Okay, well, I mean, that's totally fair, and I can see where you're coming from, but I'm going to take the other side, and I'm going to review it as, let's say, based on the genre of slasher films. Did it hold true to the genre itself? And also, did it play to our heartstrings that we wanted to see relive the original Halloween? Okay, so I'm going to take that side, and I agree with some of the points you made, and I'm going to touch upon them too. A bunch of the characters were not developed correctly. We wanted more backstory on some of the issues, especially the 40-year gap. What happened to Laurie between those 40 years? We didn't even see Karen, her daughter, being born. We didn't see her being raised. We could have seen a little montage or something, or flashbacks of how she was living and how child services came to pick her up. We did see a glimpse of it, but not enough to get us invested in Karen. Judy Greer is the actress who played Karen. I did not believe her acting at all. In the movie, she was really, how can I say this? Too plain. She didn't show emotions the right way. We didn't not see that she was suffering or had a trauma, which she claimed that she was traumatized for the way her mother raised her, Laurie. But other than that, she did not seem to be affected by it. The granddaughter was the one who wanted to have the mom and the grandmother rekindle their relationship. She was kind of the catalyst, but she didn't even force it upon them. It was like not driven into the story. The other thing is, one of the things I want to touch upon is the cons. The new doctor, I did not really like his role compared to Loomis. Even they hinted at it. She's like, Jamie Lee Curtis, like, is this the new Loomis? The thing with it is the actor who played the original doctor in the original Halloween, he died in 1995, and I believe if he was still alive, he would have reprised his role as a doctor, but unfortunately he couldn't, so they had to pick a new doctor or a new person to play a continuation role and write it into the script that the old doctor kind of died. This new doctor, I did not really like how they took his story, how he actually was thinking that, first of all, I didn't like that he helped Michael Myers escape and put on the mask. That was really, to me, it was like too cliche, too bad taste of a movie that he wants to take the mask and put it on, see how it feels. I was okay with him hinting that he might have helped them escape on the way out of the bus. That's as far as I wanted him to go. I didn't want him to basically be the driving force of reuniting Michael Myers or The Shape, as Laurie called him, and that's how he was referred to in the original script. I didn't want them to basically be driven to meet up and see each other. I wanted it to happen organic. The whole thing about slasher films, and I'm going to talk about slasher films genre right now. Slasher films, it's a movie where you need to be mad at the characters for not acting correctly. To us, it's obvious that they're not doing the right actions. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to annoy you, and you have a killer who kills people. That's why it's called slashers. He uses a blade or needles or something to slash the victims. The other thing is that I wanted to know more about Michael. And this was hinted in the trailer, how the two investigators went in, or the podcasters, to investigate him at the mental hospital that he was at. I really wanted them to investigate or talk to us as the audience about what they had discovered. They didn't give us anything, just glimpses at their papers. And I'm like, I get it. You're trying to show the papers to basically tie the original movie to this one, but you could at least tell us about it with interviews or stuff like that. They did play the interview of Loomis as he basically said that Michael Myers should be killed, cut up, and burned right away. I needed to see more of that story. I needed to see more about notes or videos, stuff like that, of Michael sitting in a room trying to talk to the doctor, but it was a one-sided conversation. Michael never spoke, and that's good. I didn't need him to. I needed him to physically, emotionally show us that he was still alive. The movie took his mask away, which means that they try to make him human to us. Okay, that was a really good idea, making him seem more human than the other movies that are not supposed to be tied into this movie. Part 2, Part 3, H2O, the Rob Zombie remakes, all those other movies are not tied into this movie. But those movies have stereotyped Michael Myers as a supernatural killer. He's not supernatural. He doesn't have any powers beyond what a human has. And that's what I liked about this movie. They took the mask off, made him look like a human, and that's where we took it from there. That's a positive thing. Back to the negative things. I wanted more history, more gap filled, because there's 40-year gaps that we didn't see. You can't have a 40-year gap and not explain anything that happened in there. To me, that was a really bad choice of the scriptwriter. And I know that there's some cheesy jokes written into the story, especially the two cops who were talking about like food and stuff. And I really believe that that's Danny McBride's scriptwriting in there. Danny McBride, he's one of the writers in this. He's a comedian, and I know that he had to do with all those cheesy jokes. This is a slasher film. Yes, slasher films do have some jokes, but this was beyond the normal amount of jokes that was supposed to be in there, and I didn't like that. Let's talk about the kid, Julian. The little kid took the movie. He took it and ran with it. The movie, to me, was more centered around him and the jokes that he was making that really, like you said, you touched upon it. The conversation that he had with the babysitter captivated me. It was natural. It wasn't fake. Kind of nice to see that, like, it was a new thing that this, we hadn't seen in the original one. The other thing that I really liked, and I think this is placed to me as a fan, was all the throwbacks and references from the old one. First, the name they referred to Michael Myers as The Shape. As real fans, we know Michael Myers is in the script was referenced as The Shape, and even in the credits, all the pumpkins, the Halloween jack-o'-lanterns in the movie. All the kills were callbacks to the original one, especially the one with the boyfriend for the babysitter who got stabbed with the knife and he was impaled on the wall. That was one of the classic ones from the original movie. Also, Karen's husband, who was stored in the closet as the babysitter from the original movie. She was in the closet when Laurie opened it, and that's the jump scare that she had. The other thing was I liked how they put the dollhouse inside Laurie's house, which was a model of Michael Myers' old house. That was a really nice Easter egg that a lot of people saw it because it was emphasized a lot. It was a close-up shot of it, especially when the granddaughter was inside her classroom, the same way Laurie was inside the classroom in the first movie. And she looks out the window in the first movie and she sees Michael Myers. And this one is the granddaughter looks outside and sees Laurie. It's a reverse role. The same thing as at the end of the movie when she was on the second floor, she falls off almost like Michael Myers, and then she disappears just like Michael Myers. All those were things that I was paying attention to, and I was like, wow, this is basically catering to people who love the original one. They're not even worried about the story. So to me, it was kind of a bonus. Those are the things that I really liked. and I didn't like about the movie. I really like that they had the intro just like the original one in the same font, the same jingle. So with that, I think we're gonna have two different grades. So anything else you want to add, Touly?
Just to speak on some of your points too, where unfortunately, I completely disagree when you say that he doesn't have like a supernatural component to him in this film. I feel like he still has a supernatural component because, I mean, when he got hit by the car, by the officer who was driving the car, I would imagine that the guy was driving the car pretty fast. And for Michael to get hit by the car at that speed and not be hurt as much as you would expect from an individual, that's a sign that there's something different about this guy. Let alone what happened towards the end when he got trapped in that bunker and they lit him on fire. And he was just staring back at them and him not showing any sense of pain or from the fire or anything. To me, that speaks to the volume of him having some supernatural phenomenon, within him or something like that. That's not normal. So to me, I feel like,
but we can also argue that he had a mental disability that did not allow him to feel pain, the same way that he killed his own sister and didn't have remorse.
Yeah, but again, you're going off of assumption now. I'm just going off of what I'm seeing, and that's, to me, from my eyes, I'm like, this isn't normal. So the only way I could explain this is it's supernatural. Like, unless he can't feel pain, that's the only thing I can think of. But at the same time, when he got hit by the car, that's like that should have been a physical reaction. Even if he couldn't feel pain, his body should have reacted and, not allow him to, either walk the way he should be able to walk, before, or, he should have suffered some sense of like damage. Like when Laurie shot him in the hand, I don't know. To me, it just doesn't seem something you would expect from like a normal person, even to somebody who is able to withstand some sense of bodily harm. Like, to me, that's like beyond normal. There's that, and then going back to Laurie again, believability. That's the theme I'm always going to come back to. If she's been training all these years, and this is the one scene that really got to me, and she was training all these years, and her line again, going back to the line where she's like, I wanted Michael Myers to escape so that I could confront him. And of course, even the cop says, that's this really stupid thing that you thought there or whatever. I forget the line exactly, but he says something to that notion. And then when Michael actually arrived at her place towards the end, he was just standing there in her front yard and she saw him, like Laurie saw him through the front door. She had the shotgun. Why not just open the door and shoot him? They even like intentionally showed her at a practice range that she set up, shooting all these mannequins, and it seemed like she had a really good shot.
Yeah,
like they made an emphasis that she has been training. She's gonna be good when she meets Michael Myers. She's gonna take him out. She's supposed to be this badass, and yet he was right there, served on a silver platter in front of you in the front yard. You choose not to open the door and shoot him, and instead you decide to just linger around inside, lose track of him because your perspective shifted, and you decided to stay by the door where he could crash through it and potentially hurt you. That doesn't scream to me that you have been preparing. Like, again, it's not believable, and that's my biggest problem with this film. Yes, it's a slasher movie, but I've seen better slasher movies, and it's because they're more believable, whether in character development or the story or how, some of the characters end up dying. I could think of several other slasher movies that are better than this one. So I don't want to say that it's because it's a slasher movie that things happen the way they did, because if that's the case, then I can't criticize it for what it needs to be criticized for, because it lacked in ways that I feel other slasher movies did well in. Yeah, like I said, my biggest fault with this movie is its believability, and it kept on disengaging me. Like, I can't remember the number of times I kept on turning to my friends like, oh my god, why did that happen? Or, geez, these characters who are dying are stupid. Like, when it got to the point where one of my friends like, I'm rooting for Michael Myers now. I don't care, because it felt like a Purge movie to me, like, more than a slasher. Like, I wanted him to actually purge this town of these stupid people. Even when they, like, one of the sheriffs were like, what do you want us to do? Just cancel Halloween? Well, yeah, why not? You know that this guy who's out there and could potentially harm people on Halloween because this is what he did last time. Shouldn't you react more strongly to this as an authority to protect, to serve and protect? That's just dumb.
Oh, I get it. I understand. I mean, all your points are valid. So I really like this review because we're going to have two different points of view. I think you're going to give it the realistic grade. I'm going to give it the fan-driven grade of, which is totally like polar opposites of the spectrum, which is, to me, I'm really excited about this review. It's two different reviews in one.
Just so that people know where I'm coming from too, though. It's not that I'm saying I don't like Michael Myers or how I like the first one.
Yes.
I like it way more than this one, easily. But even then, when it comes to movies that I like that are based off of something that I already was into, like I'm always going to use this example because I'm a very big fan of Resident Evil, the video games. But when it comes to the movie, they suck. I mean, I'm just going to come out and say they suck. Yes. I did not like them. But just because I like something for what it was, doesn't mean that I'm just going to go and easily say I'm going to like it because it's in this different medium. No, I'm going to speak to it as its own original content. Like, I'm not going to use my bias of liking something already to rave on how good it was in another context. No, that's where I'm coming from. So just because I'm not speaking well of this, I'm not speaking like this Halloween movie in a good light. It's not because I don't like Halloween. Like I said, I like the original one, even though it does have some problems with it.
Yes,
but this one, it just suffered in so many ways in terms of what I found to be believable. But if this is what this is what they were going for, the fact that they wanted us to introduce to how, for the lack of term, and again, I'm going to say it, how stupid the whole premise is involving, the plot line, the characters, then I guess they succeeded. But I don't think that's the movie that they wanted to go for. I think normally you want to create a movie where it's great and stuff. When I see scores that are up there in the 8 out of 10 range for this film, it's like, did these people really watch the same film that I watched? Because I saw something that was completely different. And even if I was to give it a modest score, I would not even give it like that high of a score. So it just boggles me that I don't know, really. Like, it makes me want to go out and apologize to some of the other films that I've watched this year and gave it like some low scores. Like, I would rather go back and watch those movies 10 times over than ever watching this film again. I'm sorry.
No, I totally understand your point of view and how you're rating this. We always review movies with a point of view like, is it realistic? Would this really happen this way? Are the characters believable and stuff like that? That's the way Touly's going to review it, and I totally honor your grade, and I think I understand which grade you're going to give it. With that said, Touly, what did you give this movie?
Well, because earlier this year I actually gave a film, I believe, like a score of a 2 out of 10, and because I didn't like this movie just as much, or if not, I didn't like it even like as much as that one that I gave 2 out of 10. I have to give it something lower to justify how much I felt about this film. So, sorry, I'm giving this film a 1 out of 10. Hopefully, but me saying that speaks to how I feel about the film.
No, yeah, and you have really valid points to back up your grade. I'm going to give it my grade. And my point of view is going back to the slasher fan-driven genre. I believe this movie was made in the intention of keeping the same genre rules, as I think we all know that horror movies follow a certain formula. And what they wanted to do was keep it back in the day by basically having stupid characters in the movie doing stupid things, but at the same time alluding to the movie that this is how we're going to do it. In a sense, like, yeah, we understand it's a cliche kind of thing. But to me, they also did some really bad things. Not developing characters correctly, having that 40-year gap not explained and stuff like that. So my grade, it's going to be between... Oh, and then here's the other thing. It got a little bonus point, or half a point, because of Julian, the kid. He was basically... Everybody was laughing in the theater when he came up and did his little dialogue. So my grade was a 6 originally, but because of that, it got boosted up half a point by Julian. So I'm going to give it a 6.5 maybe a little higher, but not close to a 7. So 6.5 out of 10. That's my grade. I guess that's going to do it for our review of Halloween. Join us next time when we're going to review the Nutcracker in the Four Realms. Social media is down in the description, and hit us up if you have any questions. And remember, keep watching movies.